Happy Saturday morning.
Yeah, I've got to change my bins. Trouble is, by the time you get to the end of a week at Good Morning Britain, my lenses, I don't know if anyone's got a top tip out there for cleaning Colorado Sunset Foundation off of lenses.
Darling, actually, if I may suggest, you keep it on because then we look younger, if that's possible.
Oh, the foundation. Oh, I see that, like a filter.
She is blurred.
Yeah.
Look at us blurred.
Look at us slightly blurred, darling.
Marilyn did that on her lens, didn't she?
Yeah.
We all do, darling.
We all do. Someone told me I think toothpaste is quite good for glasses. I don't know whether I've read that.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I don't
think so, darling.
No, is it not? I know Fairy Liquid is quite good, but the trouble is my other half keeps doing those bulk orders from supermarkets and loves cleaning. So whenever I open the fridge, the larder, I think we might have talked about this before, there's just loads of Sarson's vinegar, which he uses on just about anything. It's so old school.
Windows, the windows.
Always chooses to descale the kettle just before. Well, back in the day when we used to have company, and your eyes would be watering as you went into the room. Anyway, as you can tell, I've needed this catch up, girls.
Urine is very good to clean your glasses. So it wouldn't take you a few minutes to get it out. And
does it have to be your own urine, Debbie? I mean, does it have to be your own urine?
No, it can be anybody's, but I think it might be safer if it was yours.
I think socially distancing, it's important to use your own urine.
Yes. Yeah. So it wouldn't take you long.
There are special lens wipes that you can
Yes, I've got those. Yeah. That's good. So we're using, I think, these days just. Anyway, where were we?
Yes. Where were we?
Those stories.
Stories, yes. So
yes.
I've reported on a few sort of, or from a few allegedly haunted venues over the years. We actually did a strand on GMTV many years ago called House of Horrors, and we invited members willingly of the public to come down, and we put them through their paces to try and cure them of their phobias. But we chose somewhere, I believe it was in Northumberland, that was allegedly haunted, and we, the crew, had to stay over at night. And the owners deliberately put me in the room that was supposedly the most haunted room in the house.
No!
And it was that time of the year, you know, when the nights had well and truly drawn in, and you go to bed thinking about these things, and all you can hear is the tick-tock of the clock. And there was a window in the building. I'll never forget it. And whenever you went by that window, and it wasn't open, it wasn't a draft, it was always bitterly, bitterly cold. And the reason I mentioned the cold is many, many years ago when I was working in Manchester on a youth program, called the Sunday Show. So it would have been in the mid-90s. I was staying in a hotel that was an old insurance building, which is just on Oxford Street, which is where the BBC is.
I know it, yeah.
You know it well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And as I say, this building was reputedly haunted. And I remember going to bed, and you always think, well, is this auto-suggestion? You feel like you feel something because you've been told it's haunted when you check in. So you think there must be some kind of presence. So I remember being in the bedroom, and I'd gone to bed, and the room went bitterly, bitterly cold, bitterly cold. Every fiber of my being said, don't open your eyes.
Oh,
it was extraordinary. And I felt the sheet move down the bed.
Stop it.
And I remember it when this topic was suggested this week, I didn't have to rack my brains. I could remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh my God.
And so whatever you choose to believe, or whatever your experiences are of these sort of phenomena, if you like, because I've always, rather like my diary, held myself wide open, and to, you know,
too much information.
The prospect of something, to what you will, the prospect of something being out there. And as a God-fearing man, definitely have faith that there's got to be something on a damp cloud somewhere. But yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday. And it is that when they talk about spine tingling and chilling, my blood really did run cold. So to this day, I've clearly no idea what or if indeed there was anything at all, but I just remember the feeling, and it was primal.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, and the way actually, the way you're framed, Richard, is a very ghostly sort of eerie sort of framing now today. It looks
There's somebody
very beautifully
behind
done.
you. It's behind
Yeah.
you.
Do you know, it's funny you should say that. Whenever we take Clemmy up to the cemetery in Stoke Newington, which is quite a famous one, of course, typically very Victorian and very Gothic, she goes crazy. Like,
They know.
The will-o'-the-wisps everywhere, and
They know.
she goes absolutely crazy. Isn't it weird?
Animals definitely know, especially dogs and cats.
I know every time I'm in a theatre, and they always say theatres are haunted. Whenever I leave my dressing room, I always kind of deliberately, I'm not a great believer in that sort of arena particularly, but I always put my light off in the dark and say good night and thank you to whoever might be there, because I don't want to be afraid. And it's a thing I always just do. And I say it out loud. I say thank you and go, in case some old actor or actress is in there haunting the room, because they always say theatres are haunted, and I always do that.
Yeah,
I'm sure they are.
I suppose they're haunted by actors because we never ever want to give up working, so we just don't give up even in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Exactly, darling. And
Still
every
keep
night
going,
they've got
Matt.
shows on.
Yeah.
Every night they're putting on a show.
It's going to be all I'm going to
It's
hear.
quite, but darling, it's quite
White
good to
noise
know.
from YouTube.
It's good to know we'll have work when we're not here anymore. That's quite a good
Of
thing.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, Richard, I've had loads of encounters, as you can possibly imagine.
Any that we can speak
go
of,
on,
Sherry.
Sherry.
Well,
She
I've had
has.
a lot. I've seen that many ghosts, but I used to have this thing, and you've just reminded me of it. So I'd be in bed in the morning, and my eyes would be closed, but I'm thinking, I'll just lie here a bit longer, and then suddenly I couldn't open my eyes, and I'd feel a presence walking in the room, and they walked by my bed, couldn't open my eyes, and then they'd sit on my bed, and my bed beside me would go down. So I knew somebody was sitting next to me, but I couldn't open my eyes. And I used to get my fingers and pull my eyelids up, and there was no one there. And then one day I thought, I'm going to be brave, because it happened many times. And then this person came in, and the bed went down, and I could feel breath near me. And I opened my eyes, and it was the dog. The dog was actually jumped up on my bed, but I swear it wasn't the dog every day. It was a body, not a dog.
This is what I find fascinating about it, and I don't know whether any of you guys have done Most Haunted back in the days with the late Derek Acora, and his spirit guide Sam, and all that sort of caper that went on sort of back then. And I would hate to think that it is auto-suggestion, like I said, that you've got yourself whipped up because you've been told, as I say, or that you're not quite going into your deep sleep. You're sort of in that suspended animation moment, and obviously your body is just coming to terms with the fact that you're powering down for the day. I don't know. I've read so much about it because I do find it genuinely fascinating, and I do love people's tales. Dee, you suggested today's topic.
So I must have
You've been talking to Doris Stokes.
Well, I have got an experience actually, and I wasn't a complete believer in ghosts or spirits or anything like that until I bought this house in France. And about 20 years ago, it was a little house, really gorgeous little house. It was like on 3 levels, little townhouse in a little suburb called Montargis, which was a gorgeous little town, a little bit, with canals and lovely restaurants and everything. And my husband and I bought it very, very cheaply, and we renovated it. Anyway, we used to sleep downstairs. And in the middle of the night, exactly as Sherry and you've both said, we'd wake up and we would feel the temperature dropping, and we'd start getting goosebumps, and we'd feel somebody was in the room. Now, the thing was, going back to when we actually signed the deal for the house, I suddenly looked down and somebody had actually died. The lady who died was called Jacqueline, And my name is actually Jacqueline, and she died, and I was the same age as her when she died. And it totally freaked me out. And I thought, I nearly didn't sign it. I thought, oh my God, why is this happening? Anyway, cut to all this happening. And other people came over when we renovated it and stayed there. And they all phoned me and said, got something to tell you. We think it's haunted. And then I had the advice to actually light candles and go back, sit in the room and say to her, Jacqueline, it's been wonderful having you here, but darling, it's time to move on. And I did that 3 times, and eventually she went. And I think I had to have that house because I was called Jacqueline, and I was the same. And I think she wanted me to have the house, so that then I gave her permission to leave and to move on to her next existence. And that it was a very powerful experience for me, actually. And beautiful house. It was a lovely, lovely, lovely house.
When I was married to David, we used to live in the old police station in Thamesden. You came there, Sherry. And it was 1850s. It was very, and the walls were 15 feet thick. I mean, it was,
wow.
You know, it's a police station. We had the cells, we had everything. And, you know, renovated it. It was the most fabulous building. Anyway, we went to sleep. We probably lived there for about 3 or 4 months. And it was summer, really, really hot night. We went to sleep and we heard this.
Was that wind?
That was, and David went, oh my God. And I went, don't. He said, I'm terrified. We were both terrified. We just hung on to each other. Kira was asleep in the other room and this noise just kept going on. And then it stopped. And we thought, okay, it stopped. And when we woke up the next morning, we found that because as I was told to you, it was like the walls were so thick and everything else, and so the ceilings were so deep that it was the paper from the ceiling that had come off.
No.
It was hanging over the bed. And we were convinced it was just like a sheet. We opened our eyes and went, that's what that noise was. You can imagine.
Oh my God.
Because it was the old police station, we were sure that it would be haunted with lots of different people, but it was only the sheet. Okay. Oh. So that's my ghosty story.
Well, it's not. But what the great thing about that is, we all. I mean, as soon as you say you're going to tell a story like this, it's the easiest hook to draw people in. This is the quietest we have ever been, ladies. We've been enthralled by what the other person finally has got to say. And I think Christmas is interesting because you picked this topic, and I suppose most people would associate it with Halloween, wouldn't they? But Christmas, I think, is a great time for ghost stories. And if you sort of check the TV schedules, they're usually peppered with some kind of, you know, Christmas ghost thereof and all that sort of business, I suppose. It's quite an ancient tradition. I find them absolutely fascinating.
Me too.
In the telling of them and just that quiet moment before you get to the reveal. Oh.
The sheet. Terrifying.
It's a bit of Winciette. Oh dear.
I know. Winciette. Did you say Winciette?
He did.
Winciette sheets.
Winciette sheet reminds me of school. Winciette sheets and all of that lot.
Sorry, Sherry, I couldn't hear you over the crackle of Bry nylon you're wearing today.
Look at that.
You're looking good, girl. Now, before we go, Sherry, I did happen to notice that you were on television again this week. Never gets old, ladies. Never gets old.
Not another show, please protect us.
Yeah, another show. It's all right. It's that one that she, you know, she's quite famous for, Coronation Street, not the loose one.
Yes, that's true.
Yes, and it was a great tribute to the street you paid this week.
I know. You know what though? Because we all of us did very long interviews, and they, you know, obviously had to cut them up into tiny bits. But the one when they showed me Jack and Vera, and you know Vera was a ghost and picked Jack up off the seat, and then they danced together.
That was beautiful.
Oh my! Well, everybody that was there burst into tears. It was just glorious.
It was beautiful. I remember that episode so well. It was absolutely, and so it just works, and you kind of, it brought that sort of magic. You know, even though it's the soaps that you've done, that's what you always want to happen, isn't it? That you're going to end up with your true love.
Yeah. Do you remember on that bombshell, just to change the gear slightly and to end on a titter? I remember when Jack and Vera took over the Rovers, and Vera was convinced that the road was haunted by the ghost of Ivy. And quote unquote, I'm not saying the scene verbatim, but I do remember she said, "Oh, Jack, I came down and all I could see were these big lips." And of course, Terry, before she passed, has had quite a bit of work done. And it was such a nod. Sherry knows it only too well. It's just such a lovely nod to that shared history we all have when we grow up with something like that.
Brilliant.
Fabulous.
That was so,
I love you,
so
ladies.
Love you, darling.
Darling.
We're
See you next
almost
week.
there. Ding dong, ding dong.
Yahoo!